And I'm a firm believer in just having set periods where you are isolated to yourself and have time to think.
There's so much stuff to consume your mind with that's healthy, but yet we constantly find ourselves consuming our mind with thought, like toxic thought, like shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Before we get started on today's episode, I'd like to introduce you our Black owned business of the week, where we showcase quality Black owned businesses for you to support every week. This week's business is the 1865 Brewing Company located in Hampton, Virginia. The 1865 Brewing Company is the first Black owned brewery in the Hampton Roads area. They have a wide selection from finely crafted Belgian ale and hard cider to fresh coffee and tea for non drinkers. Be sure to check them out for your next social outing. Even in today's age of ever present interconnectivity, most people will agree that there's tremendous value in being able to disconnect from the outside world around us. And although you might not be able to retreat into a stone tower in the woods like Carl Jung, you can still find ways to do so and address your personal needs. On this week's episode of the Infusion Breakdown Show, the breakdown crew sat among ourselves to discuss why it's so important to disconnect in order to reconnect. Let's see what we come up with.
So the question we have for today, why is disconnecting to reconnect so important? Comment below, let us know your opinion. We also have timestamps in the description below as always. Be sure to check them out.
This was something I really thought about hard a month ago or so when we were coming up with topics for the podcast. And reason why I went this route is because I really wanted to have more of a discussion-based conversation instead of like wording this as a question. But of course, sticking to our true, nature, we found a way to make it into a question. But really just reflecting a lot over the past year. COVID has done a number on some people, financially, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. And one thing for me is that I felt during this past, 12, 18 months, like it's low-key been the best period of my life. Like I feel like I've really gone through an excavation of myself. And part of that was just, subconsciously, removing myself from certain situations or acknowledging, my toxic behaviors, not necessarily towards people, but towards myself, things that were not producing, grand results or affording me consistency. So just reflecting over the past year, or 18 months, like I've picked up day trading, and day trading itself, it's a journey. We'll put it that way. And one thing I realized is that like as quickly as I picked up the skill, there's so many avenues within day trading that really, it builds you as a person, but it could break you down as a person as well. And one thing I really noticed is that like if you lack discipline, it exposes that, tenfold. And one thing I would constantly find myself doing is like setting up winning trades, but not trusting myself enough to take that winning trade to the exact point where I have it going, or entering at the exact point that I set out to enter, and then either losing profit or losing the trade altogether because I'm entering too late and getting stopped out on pullback. And so essentially what would happen like periods throughout my journey was I would take a month off. Like I would still study, I would still be in the Discord chat talking, having meetings with some of the newer traders. And it was just, I was getting to that point where I started finally realizing that my entire life I had always thought that I needed to go 100%. Like, as young Black men, we always think we got to be, 3 times, 10 times, however many times better than, the opposition to truly stand out or, to get our worth. But sometimes we don't ever realize how important it is to step back and just reflect on our journey, or to reflect on the current progress. We keep thinking that we have to like consistently pile wins on top of wins on top of wins, instead of getting that dub or two and then going back to the drawing board and figure out how to magnify or consistently replicate what you did to get those dubs. And that's just a small example for me, well technically a big example because it consumes a lot of my time now, but I think the same thing could apply to like relationships, whether it be with a significant other or friends. Like one thing I've done since COVID is like I really reset the foundation for the friendship and relationship I had with my son's mom. There's a period in time to where like we really had a hard time holding conversations. And well, what a lot of people will do is I think when you have a kid involved, you kind of want to either work shit out, which we did go through and, subsequently failed. And then you also feel like you have to force that relationship to a point where, you have to remain cordial. And there was just like a point in time that we just didn't talk, and we allowed that communication and flow to just organically rebuild itself. And like, I think that was probably the best thing that ever happened to us, because we can hop on FaceTime, we can talk about anything and everything, and there's no malice or ill will towards each other, because you actually, when you take that time out to disconnect, you allow yourself to reflect. And I think we've talked about this before, like when you take that time out, you're able to not only analyze what went wrong in a relationship or the friendship, but what you did wrong to get some of those results or actions that occurred. So that really gave me a time to like forgive in absence. Like, I think that is the best thing, to forgive somebody without hearing an apology, because when you take that step back, you get to realize, oh shit, well, my action A led to action B by her, and then of course we get this end result. And that would not have been possible if I didn't take the time out to completely remove myself from the situation. Like, of course, still being a parent for Lucas, like that doesn't change at all, but like removing myself out of her frame altogether, to allow myself to like truly analyze everything for what it is, and then to just be able to move on and like not feel any type of ill will, because sometimes we feel that we have to say something, and that's not always the case. Like, you can walk away from certain stuff. Like, if the universe wants you guys to work out, or if the universe wants a connection to remain there, it's going to determine the strength of it, it's going to determine how you get there. And like, that's literally what I did, and everything just came organically after that. And I know you guys probably like hearing me go on my little tangent or my introduction, say it that way, like can kind of like have that light bulb moment, because this was an interesting topic, like for me, and I'm not sure if you guys have like similar experiences with it, or have subconsciously done it, but I think it is something that is like instrumental to self growth and things that are really strong with our our value system as the Infusion breakdown show.
Absolutely. And no, I wasn't thinking negatively or complaining because of your your intro. I think it was great. I do think that there's a lot of overlap in our sentiments towards disconnecting in general. Like you said, we had this conversation before. And one of the things I kind of want to talk about today is how best to do so, because I mean, inevitably there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. But I've had similar experiences to where, not with a relationship with the child's mother, obviously, because I'm not a parent, but I would say similar to what I predicted on the episode we had with the Walden sisters, with where we talked about first when COVID had first hit and we first started doing the remote recordings, and how we plan on utilizing the time that was touched on. And I really feel like this was a time where I was able to really start to check stuff off on my to-do list, because there was nothing but time. So I think that was a consequence of being isolationist, because the distractions weren't there, or at least not to the same degree. And I feel that I share your sense of accomplishment over the past year or so in being one of the most accomplished points in time, because it was almost a repeat of the earlier phase that I went through prior to the genesis of the podcast as a whole, when I started doing more reading in isolation and listening to podcasts, and then ultimately coming up with I guess ending up in a better place. Then I spoke to Josh about that. So like I said, it was a very similar experience to where I did a lot of those same things, and I feel like that was another layer of secondary growth that I experienced over this period of time. And although it might not be in quote unquote tangible results to other people, but in terms of fitness, in terms of mental well-being, in terms of the relationships with the people that I have around me, it's complete night and day. Like, there's been like one of my most valued friendships, I actually lost that last year, and it was just because I refused to tolerate anything where it was just one-sided. And so that was something to where I wasn't afraid to lose, and I was able to handle that very well. In situations normally that I would have reacted to very differently, I was able to, because I had spent more time thinking, become familiar with myself and identifying what was and wasn't working. And not only with that situation, but as a whole, I feel like I handled things much better than I would have previously. I feel like I was more equipped, and I feel like I am more equipped now being that I've been put in similar situations to things that I've experienced in the past with other people, and I feel like I was able to reduce the negative impact on me, and that's part of growth. Because if you're doing the same thing over and over again, or if you happen to encounter the same situation twice and it's equally as detrimental, I feel like that's not true growth. It's indicative of a cycle.
Mhm.
If you encounter the same situation and it takes you out every time, it's like, okay, well, at some point in time you're gonna it's probably in your best interest to develop some kind of strategy, so if it does happen again, you can address it accordingly. And I think that's something that's most pertinent towards relationships, but also, like you said, with yourself, with the relationship that we have with ourselves. Because regardless of who's around us in our life, and especially with the topic here with disconnecting, you have yourself. And that's a large reason why most people, or I say I can't quantify, but a lot of people, being isolated, being by yourself is scary, because it forces you to be intimate with your thoughts and really dig into what's behind the issues. Like, a few of the biggest benefits from spending time with yourself is, I think, just overarching bullet points are identifying the root causes of things, which, I mean, if you just look at things as at the surface level, like I just said, you're going to repeat them, or you're going to encounter them again and you're not going to know why. You're not going to be able to develop a coherent strategy to deal with them. And then identifying patterns from that, and then also learning how to be self-sufficient. Because if you're not all you have to depend on, because we all have obvious support systems, but as an adult, you're supposed to have a large degree of self-regulatory ability. And so by you being able to process your emotions in a healthy fashion and get yourself to a baseline and think through things, even though when we're in emotional states, like, people will say, okay, well, women are emotional creatures. Bullshit. People have emotions. Humans are emotional creatures. So learning how to deal with those and navigate the world as things come up, and through the highs and lows, and make sound decisions. Because if your judgment is clouded by your anger, your sadness, that's it's a recipe for failure, I feel. Coming from, I'm not a day trader, I'm more of a long-term investor, but when it comes to investing, emotions are your worst fear. Well, that's kind of ironic there, but emotions are your worst enemy. Like, you can't be emotional when it comes to investing. And I think I don't want to go on too long, because I really want to hear what you guys have to say. Then I have another question to follow up. But I think one of the biggest things from disconnecting to reconnect is it allows you to identify what's important. That's the biggest thing. So it's not the sense of you just disconnecting because it's cool and everybody, you want to get put up a facade to be like, okay, well, I'm not around a lot of people. It's like, no, you're actually doing something and identifying the people, the things, the goals, the beliefs that you have that are truly important, and staying grounded in that, because there's a lot of bullshit around us at all times.
But no, I agree with definitely agree with a lot of that. Well, all of it, but
yeah, I disconnect a lot, like a lot. There's definitely days I can go without actually saying a single word at all. So there's definitely days I can disconnect. It's definitely not something new to me. But like, I agree with everything you guys said as far as why. It gives you time to actually reflect on yourself and actually time to find out the problems and everything like that. So yeah, as far as its importance, I think you guys kind of hit it on the nail on the head, as far as it allows you guys to look at yourselves in the mirror basically and find out what's wrong, and then find out ways to actually fix it. I know I had mental setbacks last year, like late last year. I still have some mental setbacks as far as like doubt and shit like that, but when I disconnect, gives me time to myself, gives me time to reflect, and then gives me time to realize what got me to be the best version of myself. So, and that's really the important thing. And I think people don't like to disconnect because they think they'll be lonely too. So, and I do want to ask, like, how can you disconnect without feeling lonely?
That's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it. My take on that is, disconnecting doesn't always imply the total physical separation from other people. In my mind, the way that I see disconnecting is just the intentional practice of creating distance between oneself and outside circumstances. So I could, like, even during the period of disconnection, life doesn't stop. You still have family, you still may have relationships, you may have work responsibilities and friends and things like that. But maintaining those friendships and those relationships as you go about your disconnecting and making intentional time for you to do these things that we talked about. But yeah, it's a balancing act, because for us to completely disconnect in its truest sense away from the world, like go off in a log cabin somewhere in the woods and just abandon responsibilities, it's not feasible for most of us. We still have day-to-day responsibilities and the world doesn't stop, like I said. So
what about for the people that feel alone even though they're still with people, physically still with people? They could be feeling alone mentally.
What about them? I'm not saying like that I don't care, but like what specifically are you asking about them?
I'm asking, how do you disconnect without them feeling lonely? Because even if they're still physically with people, they could still feel lonely mentally, you know?
Double down on those relationships that do matter. I mean, even when you do feel that there is some degree of loneliness, I mean, that's a normal human feeling. And just really focusing and emphasizing on the relationships that do bring the most value to your life, the people who do care about you, and then do the same thing. And you could talk about exactly what you're doing while you're disconnecting, the purpose behind it, things you've discovered. Because some of the best revelations that have come to me were spawned by conversation. And I feel like that's something where you go off to yourself, you think, you come back, you present the idea, kind of like we do the podcast. We have a question, we talk about something, go our separate ways, come back on a Sunday or Tuesday, depending on how the week works out, talk about it, learn something new. And it's the very same thing.
I got you. I think one thing too, sometimes people need to change up their routine too, because sometimes the same old routine could get old and boring. I know for me, what I started doing probably about 2-3 weeks ago, I started getting up early in the morning and going to the gym. Because I actually listened to or I read something that The Rock does. Like, he gets up early in the morning, go to the gym, and then at 4 o'clock, yeah, he gets in the morning, goes to the gym at like 4 o'clock, and then he goes back home and go back to sleep. So I actually tried that, and it's actually, and I love it, really. I don't know, it's the hardest part for me is getting up, but once I'm up, I'm fine. And then knowing that I can get back to sleep when I come back home and after I'm finished workout as a reinforcement for my own self, that's pretty good. I don't always go back to sleep though, but yeah, it's pretty good. But yeah, I think changing up the routine too, because I think that's really big too. I'm not a morning person, so if I can get up in the morning and I get up in the morning at fucking 5:30 in the morning, and I go at 6, and I try to be back by like 8:30, you know. So yeah, change up the routine I think is big too. If you have to, if you feel like the whole same old routine is getting, you know, boring, or you feel like you're not as motivated as you were once before.
And you're prescribing that as a remedy for the loneliness?
Part of the
disconnecting?
Just part of the disconnect. Yeah, not necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious on what your thoughts are when it comes as it pertains to like loneliness and this particular topic.
I don't know. It was really a question I actually came up before we while I was waiting for you guys, as far as just that. But I agree with you. I do think having the proper people in your corner, not that they're necessarily physically near you, but making sure you have that support system, no matter if it's like through verbal words, through actions, or whatever. I do think that's important too, as far as loneliness. But sometimes people need that reassurance, like we talked about, like 2 episodes ago. So sometimes people need that reassurance. So as long as you have those people in your corner to give that reassurance to you, you should handle loneliness pretty good, even if you disconnect.
Des, what's your take on that?
I respect it. Like for me, I mean, having a kid, like your priorities slap you in the face a lot. So I don't necessarily trip too much off of the loneliness. Like I grew up listening. I'm not gonna say grew up because that would imply my whole childhood, but like late high school, like I really started getting into Nas. And like the one verse that I always, or we'll just say like one quote, is like, born alone, die alone. Like I embody that early on because late high school, like I dealt with a lot of depression and anxiety, and like when you deal with that, that's like a I'm the only one that understands me kind of mentality. And then of course I kind of grew out of it as I had my self-help remedies and things like that. But the one thing that really allowed me to welcome in loneliness is the one aha moment, like finding what it is that you really want to do in life and working towards it. And two, it's the realization that you shouldn't fear death, but you should fear laying on your deathbed and being, insecure or not satisfied with the life you live. And that's always been my biggest thing. Like, not to sound like too arrogant, but like I don't fear COVID. I don't fear anything. I don't fear death. I don't fear dying by accident. I fear, laying on my deathbed and like not affording my son the life that I had, or not living the life that I want to live. So when I think of things like that, like I don't care about being around other people. Like I gotta, by any means necessary, Malcolm X, my like frame of mind, achieve my goals. And I think like when you become that obsessed with it, everything else is just a sidebar. Like, I would say like I have an outlet, like we have the podcast. There's conversations that I have with you guys that are like my way of getting off my random thoughts that bounce around my head at the most random times, per se, random thought. But yeah, like I have like an outlet, but I would say everybody has to start somewhere. Like my first outlet was smoking weed. You grow out of that. Like you should be smart enough when you smoke weed that like you've plateaued. Like you're no longer able to solve your own questions. You're not able to solve your own issues. So after I stopped smoking weed, I went to therapy. Like some people need to just start at therapy. Maybe you don't need to smoke weed, or maybe you go to therapy and smoking weed helps when you start therapy. Like things like that. Like you have to. Therapist. Exactly. But like the first thing is just always identifying what your outlet is. And like for me, gone through all of that, when I had my aha moment, and we've talked about this a lot, I'm thinking on the podcast and in just sidebar as well, is like the importance of reconnecting with your inner child. Like I remember points of like wanting to be really into anime and having a desire to watch it, but I didn't love it. So like I would watch Hunter x Hunter, Attack on Titan, One Piece, all of these animes, and I'd be like, yeah, I could get into it. Like, but one thing that me and I think I've sold over again is like I'm really into Star Wars. So like I'll go back, like if I'm having a off day and I don't feel like being on the game or anything like that, I'll go watch Star Wars, bro. Like there's so much Star Wars content, or there's so much shit on YouTube that you can watch for things that fulfilled you during your childhood. Like for me as well, I like there's days where I can just when I'm working from home, I'll go outside and I'll shoot basketball. Like I'll go outside and shoot the basketball. Just say shoot hoops and make it sound cool or some shit. But I'll go outside and I'll put up a few shots, and like I will instantly have that remedy that I've been looking for, because that's something that consumed a lot of my childhood. Like I always was happy when I played basketball. I never fought when I played basketball. Like I was just always in a constant state of happiness when I played it. And so I could go outside and just hearing the sound of the net is like it's hard to explain. It's euphoria. But there's things with Star Wars that like as a kid I thought were like corny to watch, like Clone Wars, and then they have Rebels, and then they have this new, I won't say new series, but it's the series that came out in like 2020 that's supposed to catch up after probably after was it not The Last Jedi, but The Rise of Skywalker. Like there's so much stuff in there, and if you just like put the whole cartoon aspect aside, which shouldn't be hard since we really like anime, but then you can actually like start to understand story arcs and where all of this stuff in between the movies come into play. So it's either that, or sometimes maybe my disconnect is just studying. Like I'll either find a book to read, or I'll go find a YouTube video to watch on day trading, like a new method that I maybe want to test out. And it's just things like that. Like there's so much stuff to consume your mind with that's healthy, but yet we constantly find ourselves consuming our mind with thought, like toxic thought, like shoulda, coulda, woulda, depression inducive thoughts, like how could I have done this better, or what can I do to make this person understand the situation from the viewpoint that I'm seeing it. Like perspective doesn't matter. All that matters is that what you're currently doing or where you want to be is what's number one on your mind. And I think you'll find yourself, being able to deal with loneliness and not a lot more, because I felt that way. Like when I got into my first relationship, I was going through a lot of bumps and I disconnected from my entire friend group. And all that did was rob me of my ability to express myself outside of the relationship. I didn't have my boys to talk to about stuff. Like I was constantly trying to figure everything out on my own. And it was like, if I know then what I know now, that would have been the last move I would have made. Because I was robbing myself of my outlet. And I was robbing myself of, things that I could do to bring me joy. So, once you realize that you really only get one life to live, like I think there's this saying I keep hearing a lot now. Like I don't hear it, but I read it. And it's every person has two lives. And their second lives begin when they only have one. When they realize that they only have one. And it's like, that's kind of how I've been flowing. Like it's just, I don't follow that particular methodology, but I just, at the end of the day, my biggest fear is like, I always say, I think I said up here, I was like, I want Frank Sinatra's I Did It My Way to play at my funeral. Like if people don't know that that's the song that should be playing at my funeral, then I didn't live life the way I should live.
So 57.
The fact that you know it, that what are we? Yeah. We're past 100 now, aren't we? Yeah, we're well over 100. Like
he's definitely said it. I don't think that was the last one he said it on. No, I'm pretty sure.
I think that for a fact you said it on that. First time I said it.
Oh, okay, yeah, but that was probably the first time, but that was like, he said it at least 3 times.
Trifecta.
Hey, if you can't tell, guys, they're the ones that do all the editing and the promoting and the time stamping.
What you said though, as far as like doing what you did in your childhood, make you feel like a kid again. It's funny because one of my routines in the morning is coming home and watching a pup named Scooby-Doo, because it's just something I like to do, and it's something like I used to watch when I was a kid. So, but yeah, I think that that's funny, and it is other things.
That shit puts me on cloud 9 because like we're recording at 8:00 on a Tuesday. It's almost 9 now. I'm normally at the gym right now. And so like all day I've been battling, how am I going to get my release? Because I have my son tomorrow and Thursday I work until 7:30. So it's going to be, I'm not going to have my full, my regular routine. And so I went shopping for groceries, came back home, watched 2 episodes of Star Wars Rebels. Here I am in a bright mood. Like it's just simple things. Like you overthink it, but there's really nothing to overthink. You should just do it. Like you know what you should do. Stop thinking about it and just do it. Yeah. Like some things do require deep thought, but don't get me wrong, but that's a small part of your day. It's not, you shouldn't be thinking about everything you should have to do all day. Like some things at 27, 28, like they should just start flowing. You should just know.
Yeah, I like when I edit, and I actually, that's kind of part of the things, watching shows, and then when I edit too, I like that, and then coming out of it like 2 hours later and thinking like, oh shit, like I haven't been on Instagram. I love that. I haven't been on Instagram. I don't care what's been happening and shit like that, and I like looking at my own work, what I've done. It's gonna lead me to some type of progress, so yeah, I definitely get what you mean.
Des, what you were just...
Oh, you go.
No, please.
No, I was just gonna ask, when was the last time you guys actually disconnected, or are you in a disconnect state right now?
It was definitely this weekend. I mean, it's disconnecting. So that's something I wanted to talk to you guys about, is I've noticed that there's a compounding effect when it comes to disconnecting. So the longer you go without doing so, the more time you need to actually do it once you do. And I'm a firm believer in just having set periods where you are isolated to yourself and have time to think, whether it be, so I'll listen to an audiobook on the way to the gym, during my cardio, listen to music while I'm working out, but I ride home in silence, just to think. I'm not allowed to listen to any music or anything. And then also, if I happen to take some time out, like I have a balcony I just started using again. I like to go read books out on the balcony. I'm not allowed to fuck with the phone while I'm out there. I just have it, finish my chapter, come on in. So it's just a method of disconnecting frequently, but I don't need those large chunks of time because I do regular self-maintenance. It's the same thing like with a car. If you don't take your car to the body shop to get your oil change, to get a tune-up, then once it starts to fall apart, then it's going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to take you much more effort to repair it than had you been doing the proper upkeep. And it's the same exact thing. Is that something you guys have experienced as well? In terms of like the time and the effort that coincides with the time that you haven't been doing it?
For sure. Like I'm in great need of a disconnect. I was supposed to have a week off from work. Like I was beginning of July where I was gonna originally go down to Florida with my family, but I had realized that, and kind of what I said at the beginning, like I had just been going at 100 miles per hour the first 6 months of the year, that I didn't want to go to a place where there's gonna be a bunch of kids running around I wasn't familiar with, and it would have just been nonstop talking like with family, like people wanting to catch up and things like that. Don't get me wrong, like I enjoy family, but when I'm in need of a disconnect, that doesn't fit my idea or vision of it. So I stayed back, and I was just going to have time split between Sydney and I with Lucas. And that entire week, her AC went out. So I had Lucas that entire week. Didn't get the disconnect. Still haven't disconnected. So what I know I'm running on ball tires right now is because I've consistently find myself like my mind racing for no reason. Like I'll check Instagram, I'll turn it off, like be up there for 15 seconds, turn it off, and then I find myself reopening the app again, or I'll be going to my messages, respond to something, and then going back into the messages, and like there's nothing there. Like my mind is consistently racing for something to do rather than just being at peace. And like that's typically when I know that I need to disconnect, because I mean I haven't done it in a while. Like 2020 was really the last time I did it, and for the most part it was like 2020 was just a disconnection, like a disconnected year. Like I really didn't hang with my boys a lot, obviously because of COVID. Didn't really work out a lot. Like I felt like it was really I said it at the start, like it was a year of excavation, because things that I used to love to do, I didn't necessarily like to do them anymore. Like I still work out, but I don't work out nearly as much as I did back in 2019. I still read every now and then. Used to watch a lot more TV, but now my time with TV is like very, like it's really Star Wars or nothing. Like I don't watch TV unless I'm doing it to decompress of some sort, or just get that little dopamine hit from watching something that I like. But it's definitely past due. I would say last time I disconnect, I'll give you that. It was a mini, but the really last time I got to disconnect, but it wasn't what my mind and body is used to. I journaled. I journaled like 3 times in July, and it allowed me to feel at peace for a day or two, but I felt like it was still a lot more I needed to do. Like I haven't truly disconnected in a while.
For me, no, because I actually disconnect a lot. Like if we're just talking about something like social media, which is I feel is a big factor, and the reason like why people need to disconnect. I barely post stuff up there. I try not to look at a lot of people's stories. Like a lot of time I don't look at your stories because I'm not on Instagram. Like I'll be up there for maybe like that's 15 seconds, and then I'll get back off. Like if anything, I'm on the explore page, or I'm looking at like Knicks stuff, Yankees stuff, or something like that. I'm not trying to look at anybody else's information, because that just brings in a whole bunch, can bring in doubt, can bring in different opinions and stuff like that. So I don't do that. So I like really disconnect a lot. Even when I'm thinking about posting a story, like I will look at a picture, like I will look at something I would think about posting, and I would think like, do I really want to post this? And like 80% of the time I'd be like, nah, I'm not gonna post it. Like I probably could have posted about 4 songs because I was at the gym last week, including Kanye West's The Workout song, because I just love the fucking skit part when the country girls like thanks to Kanye's workout plan. I rode a plane. She's like a country girl. I got the day outside of the family and I rode a plane. That shit was hilarious.
Rode a plane.
That shit had me dying at the gym, bro. But yeah,
you do with a car.
yeah. So yeah, I like, even with like social media, I disconnect a lot, so I don't really have that problem. But I do understand that people do have that problem. They don't disconnect for a long period of time, and when they finally do, it takes a long time to actually recover. But I disconnect a lot. I try not to be on social media. I try not to look at people's stories. Like people have actually gotten mad at me that I've actually didn't look at their story. Like, but like I'm not on social media. Like I don't.
Hold on. That in itself is ridiculous.
Kinda, yeah.
There is no kinda.
Yeah,
it's just because people like attention.
People
like attention, so they want you to make sure you're giving them attention in some way, either story, liking the picture, doing something. But yeah, like I try not to be up there a lot, but I disconnect a lot. Like I try not to be as connected, you know.
This past weekend, I was talking to one of my homegirls about the concept of peace, because that's something that has been really central to me, is being able to create your own peace in the midst of whatever's going on. Because just as I said before, life doesn't stop. There's always going to be something. Like, I don't think any one of us has had a period of life where everything was just across the board perfect. And so with that in mind, there's never going to be a right time for you to detox. There's never going to be a right time for you to disconnect or to do some self-maintenance, but finding little segments throughout the day. I think, Des, you kind of described it fairly well, what you do personally, with even with you and I guess the example of today, where you said that you weren't going to be able to go to the gym, so you watched those 2 episodes, and then tomorrow you know that you're going to be occupied, but the next 2 days because you have a lupus. But even in the midst of all that, I mean, being a practicing day trader, having a full-time job, being 1/3 of the Infusion Show podcast, and God knows whatever else you do, but you still find time in that. And it doesn't have to be a week-long sabbatical, but learning to take what you have, even through tumultuous times, and using that time to really attend to your own needs. And it could be something as small as like what you're saying with Star Wars, or Josh, what you were saying with Scooby-Doo. I was a little bit shocked that you said the pup named Scooby-Doo, not the original OG Scooby-Doo. But
the only reason why,
no judgment.
No, I definitely watched that. The only reason why is because that comes on like 2 in the afternoon, and usually 2 in the afternoon, some type of work. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's actually what I watched first, and then I realized it was a pup named Scooby-Doo that came on. I was like, oh shit,
Did you know Scooby-Doo Where Are You only had like a season or 2?
Yeah, a pup named Scooby-Doo is like that too. They only have like 30 episodes.
Hold on.
Yeah. I don't even think it has 30.
It's so many different shows though. It's different shows though. That's why. But
Scooby-Doo Where Are You was the best one.
Oh yeah.
And I thought they had like a full catalog, like 4 or 5 seasons deep. It's not
3 seasons.
Where Are You? Scooby-Doo?
Yeah.
I thought it was.
How many episodes total?
Episodes, there were let me do some quick math here. It was less than 50, I believe.
Oh, okay, so yeah, it wasn't that many episodes a season.
Bro, like I thought there were so many episodes of that.
Me too.
One thing I've been doing too lately is I've been looking at my own YouTube videos. I just been laughing off of that for like a good 30 minutes, and then like
I told you, Joshua versus Joshua coming.
But yeah, I do that too, as far as like finding peace too. I think that's a good thing. Just looking back on some of the work that you've done and then enjoying it, basically.
Enjoying your wins.
Like 41.
Exactly. Yeah. Anything else, y'all?
I know you're a Scooby-Doo guy, but I prefer Courage myself.
I never was no. I was never big on Courage. This shit was weird, man.
That's why I liked it. It was a unique blend of horror and comedy, and it had the ability to illustrate principles, and like the episode they had with the Hunchback.
I felt bad for that fucking dog, yo. That dog had major anxiety because of this fucking show. Like,
but despite what he was going through, he always saved the people who he cared about. Muriel, and most episodes ended up with Eustace getting zapped by lightning. He'd be like a pile of ashes, or something would eat him, but he always saved Muriel.
Yeah, like the villainous figures in that show really weirded me out though, to the point I was like, oh, do I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That shit was. I couldn't rock with it. I ain't even gonna hold you.
And what I liked about the Scooby-Doo is like the mystery aspect. Like I was actually trying to figure out like who the fuck did this? Sometimes it would have been easier, sometimes it was a trick, you know. But
it was always easy.
Nah, sometimes it wasn't. Sometimes they put a obvious person in front of your face, but that's not always a person. But I mean, yeah, it's still fun.
So both of you said that the Courage stuff was creepy to you. There was one episode that I would not watch by myself when I was younger, like when I was really young. But as I got to my like early teens and then adult, it's my favorite one of all time, The Curse of Ramses, where it has a CGI mummy. You ever seen that one?
I wouldn't be able to tell you. Like,
Okay, if you watched it as a child, it would scare the shit out of you. It was something about a CGI mummy on a two-dimensional cartoon.
Oh, I
background.
think I know what you're talking about.
Like
I
turn,
know
slam,
exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's why I did not fuck with it, dog. Nope.
I know exactly what you're talking
You
about.
in elementary school, you trying to no sir.
That was
Exactly,
my
as a
favorite
fucking kid
episode.
watching that
Nah.
too. Like, nah, that
Bro,
shit's
Like
weird.
even when it scared me, that was my favorite. I just went and watched it at nighttime by myself.
Oh, so you're a psychopath.
If that's what you want to call
No,
me.
but look, bro, Courage didn't stand a chance because I watched Jeepers Creepers in like second grade.
Mhm.
Because there was a time like myself and my sister and I think my mom, we all had like the stomach bug, and we stayed home and they ordered Jeepers Creepers on DirecTV. I had no business at 7 years old watching that damn movie. And so all scary movies, like, bro, since I've been 7 years old, I don't watch them. Like, we go to Missouri every summer until I was like, till we moved to Japan, and then until after I graduated. All they want to watch is like see the Chucky, all the Chucky shit, all the scary movie stuff, and I'm like,
You want with it?
I won't with it, bro. They be watching it. I'd have, because we, this is old country cousins. Like everybody sleeps on the floor. I have the spot right next to the couch, so I can turn into the couch. Hey, ain't see nothing.
After you watched Jeepers Creepers, did you have a nightmare with the belly button shuriken popping your tire?
Bro, I didn't even get to watch the whole movie. Like I fell asleep, and there was periods of times where I'd wake up, and like it was just so weird. Like this nigga just wanted he just wanted their eyes, did he not?
I think
like
the people who feared him, like there was something he would smell about them, and he would want their eyes.
I'm gonna tell you like this: when that motherfucker pulled up into the all brown UPS van and ran him off the road, that was the last little bit of the movie I watched. Cause it was so, bro, like those movies are so weird. Like they're driving into like a little maize field or wherever it was, wheat field, and you see this motherfucker on the porch, and then next thing you know, he's in a UPS truck, a browned out, no logo, snatch 'em up truck, and then he's right behind him. Like, nah.
I mean, but
I had no business seeing that at 7 years. But you got to think, like, I'm going to the country every summer, and like there's nothing but cornfields and wheat. So it's like it's the worst thing to see at that age, and like your perspective be so limited. All I seen was that motherfucker in the brown truck running into the back of their car, and that was all I needed to see. I'm not cut out for this.
have you ever tried to watch it as an adult?
Nope. Maybe that's where all my like hidden traumas are.
Maybe if you just watch that damn movie, Desmond, you'd be so much more successful in
all I
life.
needed to do was watch it at like 16 and I'd have been straight.
Yeah,
It's probably definitely not as scary as you probably thought it was now.
it's really not.
I was one of them people that like I tried to give scary movies a chance and I would talk shit during the movie. Like, oh, you ain't gonna do it. And that shit did not work. Like I used to try and talk shit whenever, like, cause suspense builds up. It's the movie. It's like in the movie, everything gets suspenseful. The music starts playing. Yeah. It starts off slow and then it gets faster and louder. And I'll just be talking shit the whole time. Like I don't know who I'm talking shit to. I don't know what's about to happen, but I'm talking shit. So I have like the goddamn testosterone build up to where whatever happens, I'm not gonna be no bitch. It didn't work. So I was like, you know what, scary movies just not for me, man.
You're already talking, so your mind is focused on what you're saying, and not the fact that the serial killer jump out with the knife and.
Yeah, either that or I would talk shit, because you know how in scary movies the like white people do dumb shit in scary movies.
Yes.
Talk shit, like stupid bitch, and then they get their ass chopped up, and I'm like, all right, cool. It wasn't that bad. Where if I would have just been sitting back.
I thought you meant more like, oh, you ain't no big killer or some shit like that. Like you just calling the guy. Oh,
this man is about to slice their ass up. I gotta find some way to dilute the violence. Like,
interesting. Yeah. You have anything else, Brian?
No, not at the moment.
Not at the moment. All right, I'm gonna wait 20 minutes, and then when you.
No, please. No, I'm not gonna prolong us for 20 minutes. Okay. We may have just another discussion sometime down the road.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe a message in the group chat.
Okay. You have a recommendation of the week? Des?
Yeah, I think it'll go spot on with what we talking about. I was thinking
Cheapest
like
creepers.
I was thinking about the course of topic of conversation. And for me it'll be catch a sunset this week. Like if you're a morning person, catch a sunrise. If you're a afternoon person like me, or evening, catch a sunset. Like that's the easiest way you can honestly disconnect. And if you're in the Hampton Roads area, if you into sunsets, head over to Chicks Beach. There's free parking by Boyd 44 if you just want to type in Boyd 44 on the navigation and get over there. But that is like the best spot to see a sunset on the side. Like you just see it set behind the water. So do something that allows you to disconnect for a moment and just be at peace or be one with whatever that experience is. And don't put it on. Don't bring your fucking phone.
You gotta show it off. What do you mean?
I did. Like there was one time I really wanted to, and I'm glad it happened. So just to prolong it like extra 30 seconds. I took Lucas to the beach one night and I wanted to go watch the sunset. He ran off so far, like we ran so far, like this would be east, that like there's a bridge blocking the sunset. So I wanted to like catch it on my phone, but like little did I know I was being pulled away, so it was harder to catch it on my phone. So I just had to be present and observe it, and like I had no desire to put it on my phone. By the time I wanted to put it on my phone, sun had already set. So it's like just be present in the moment.
But did you want to put it on your phone, or did you want to put it on Instagram?
Well, I had to record it, but it would have gone on Instagram. Like I recorded on my phone because iPhone has better camera.
Actually, it doesn't.
Well, I'm talking about like it has a better camera versus the Instagram camera. Like it captures everything cleaner. And then,
okay, I thought you wanted to have a part two. We talk about Android versus Apple because I'm ready for it.
Like, I'm talking about whatever application you have. Like the host camera for your phone is better than whatever the application camera is.
Right. More so, the difference is greater with Android.
You can record it and not put it on Instagram. Just keep it in your photos, videos, library. Just look at it.
All right, sometimes I do.
Yeah, I think that's important to put. Everybody don't have to put everything on Instagram.
Sometimes I do. I do go back and watch some videos. Yeah, that's it.
All right, you heard him. Catch a sunset. Take a fucking walk. All right. But yeah, if you guys like the discussion, don't forget to hit the like button. We're going to see you guys next week. Peace.
But while you're here, be sure to check out other great content from the Breakdown crew, including previous episodes of the podcast, Joshua versus Movies, Joshua versus Music, and of course, haven't forgotten about my plant lovers, Feel the Love. Just check out this begonia.